Neal Ganguli is a director at Deloitte. You're handling what? All the automotive supplier practice at Deloitte?
That's correct, John. I lead the automotive supplier practice consulting in Deloitte in the US.
You just came out with a study looking at where this industry is going. Give us some of the details of that.
Absolutely. So we just completed our third Global Automotive Supplier study. We do this once every 2 years because things change so fast in the industry. This particular study is looking at the impending transformation that is upon us with the impact of mobility, connected, the technologies coming in the industry, the new capital and the outside players that are coming in the value system, and then how that impacts automotive suppliers in particular, and what are some of the things, some of the strategies they should be thinking about going forward.
When you say having them think about strategies going forward, I got to believe that would differ by company, depending on what kind of a supplier company it is.
Absolutely right. So what we call, there's a starting point analysis we did with all the suppliers, and based on where you are with your product portfolio and based on where you are with your financial capacity, we've tried to, as consultants do, plot people in quadrants, right? Not so much to judge, but exactly to your point, is what kind of strategies are right. So if you're in a sector that may be a little more commoditized than others, right? You will want to consolidate, you will want to take cost out, focus on asset efficiency, vis-a-vis if you're in a sector that's more emerging, if you're in a segment that's more emerging, that is more software, you're going to think about, how do I innovate? How do I create new business models to monetize for the future?
What are you finding? I mean, are these supplier companies really moving fast enough to keep up with the pace of change?
Well, there's always a mix, right? But what we see is there's a lot of outside capital, outside players coming in. The value chain as we know it, the traditional linear automotive value chain, has seen some change and disruption, to put it that way, right? There's a lot of companies that are thinking about it, that are deploying capital, creating capital to do new things, because the worst risk I see in the industry is in this time of transformation to not do anything to either mitigate the risks that your business faces or take care of the opportunities and capture the opportunities that the disruption presents. And as we see the companies across the spectrum of how active they want to be, but at the minimum, I think what we see is a lot of our clients are thinking about, how do I change the game that I'm in and be the, deploy the strategies that I want to deploy based on my product portfolio.
Can some of these companies really change? I mean, for example, if you're tied in with the internal combustion engine, I think it's going to be around a long time.
Absolutely.
But at some point, it's the market is not going to be the size it is today. Can companies that are heavily invested in that actually change to thrive in the future?
I think they can two ways, right? One is you got to take the incumbent capital intensity of some of the businesses around IC. There are companies that are thinking about how to deploy these assets better, digitize, make them smarter, right? As the industry shrinks, the volume shrinks in the long term from an IC perspective, how do I make my assets work better? On the other hand, having created that efficiency in the capital, how do I then deploy to then, I invest in some of the future value propositions, be it electric, be it hybrid, partial hybrid, and so on. So clients are thinking about their current assets, what's needed for the future, and how do I need to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm. What do you see coming forward? For the companies that are really on the leading edge here, where do you see them going?
We call them in our starting point analysis, we call them sort of ecosystem shapers. They're kind of that top right company who are investing the capital and the innovation, right? They're forming partnerships and ecosystems because given all the technology, given the service value propositions, we don't think, and it's playing out in the industry, that a company alone does not often have the capabilities to bring it all together. So we're seeing a lot of partnerships between players inside and outside the industry. We're seeing partnerships across tiers, we call tier leapfrogging. And so there's a lot of capabilities and a lot of new value propositions and technologies companies are bringing in just by partnering with other players. And that's what we call sort of the ecosystem shaping strategy.
This has got to be an exciting time for you to be doing this, because I don't see any slowdown in the change coming at all, even more change coming.
Absolutely. I think given technology availability, consumer preferences, the pace of change it's definitely not going to slow down. If anything, it'll pick up, as you said. And so, as like I said earlier, the biggest risk I think that companies can subject themselves to at this point is, in this time of transformation, not to be actively thinking of what they're going to do one or two vehicle cycles down the road. And there's a lot of clients thinking about it and putting their mind share, which is good, and it's a very busy time for us to try to help them and support them in the journey.
Very good. Well, Neal Ganguli, thanks so much for giving us this brief update of what Deloitte's doing with automotive suppliers.
Pleasure, John. Yeah. Always pleasure talking to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Future mobility is about digitizing the driver, vehicle, and environment. Thanks to high-performance radar sensor technology, autonomous driving will soon be reality.